Hey everybody, Wasim Faranesh with Faranesh Real Estate and Property Management. I've been noticing a big trend in the market, and it's the purchasing and renting out of multifamily units, specifically residential, not commercial multifamily. So what that is, that would be anything 2 units to 4 units. That's not considered commercial. So for an example, I'm actually standing inside a multi-unit fourplex that I own. I own a couple of them. And I'm going to go through today and show you different upgrades that I do. And then I wanted to go over with you guys my thoughts on multifamily in general and investing in multifamily properties. Specifically the pros and cons of them. Now, even though I own them, there are cons in owning multi-units, and I own both multi-units and single family, and there's advantages and disadvantages to both. So let's start with the multi-unit pros. What are the positives of owning multifamily? Well, number one, you can scale faster, right? If I'm an investor that wants to build a portfolio, right away I bought this building and I have 4 rental properties now. So if you're looking to invest and grow a portfolio quicker, multi-units is the way to go. Especially maybe you want to invest a lot of money, then it makes more sense to buy multi-unit properties. So that's one advantage. Another advantage are loans, right? So if I'm getting loans on my rental properties, again, you can scale faster and get fewer loans with multi-units. So for example, if I've got 4 fourplexes, that's 16 properties, 16 units that I'm renting out, but only 4 loans, right? If I compare that to condos, townhouses, or single family homes, to get 16 properties, I'd need 16 loans, which you can't even really do that. You can't get that many loans. So that's another advantage right there. You own more units and you have fewer loans out. Another advantage is the cash flow, right? This is a fourplex that we're standing in right now. I'm in one of the units. There's 3 other units here. This unit's obviously vacant that I'm standing in, but I'm still collecting. I've actually got 2 units vacant that we're remodeling. But I've got 2 other units that are bringing me in cash flow. So I'm never without cash flow, or just about never without cash flow on this property. It's always generating rent. So my plan specifically with this building is I had 4 units. I had 1 vacancy. I had another tenant vacate. I sent them notice to vacate, and I remodeled 2 to bring the rent value up. So this unit and another unit are going to go on the market probably within the next week. I'll fill these in with a higher rent. Then I'll likely ask one of the other tenants to vacate, do the same thing, and repeat, remodel, and rent for a higher value. So that's another advantage, as opposed to a single family home, right? The tenant moves out, I'm doing a remodel, I'm not getting any cash flow. There's no income being generated on that property. Another advantage, and this is for novice investors, and it's almost, they call it house hacking is a term that they use. If you're a new investor, right, and you want to scale quickly, you can get an FHA loan on a fourplex like this, move into one of the units, right, qualify for an FHA loan, which is a lower down payment, and rent out the other 3 units. If you do it smart and use a smart agent, you can probably structure it in a way where not only the other 3 units are paying the whole mortgage, but you should have a little bit extra cash each month or be cash flow positive. So those are really the main advantages that I see owning a multi-unit. But there are some disadvantages, and I'll go over those next. So I've gone over some advantages with you on multifamily, so let's go into some of the disadvantages of owning them. Number one, they're more expensive. So especially with the trend that's going on right now, buying multifamily in Las Vegas is very expensive. There's a lot of demand for them. Investors from all over the country, even all over the world, are calling and asking agents, hey, can you find us multi-units? So it's more expensive than owning a single family home. Also, there's lower supply, especially in Vegas. Until recently, there really hasn't been that much of a need to build multi-units in Las Vegas as opposed to California, because housing is really affordable. So there's not a need to build them, as opposed to, say, in California, in your higher income areas, to get affordable housing, they had to build duplexes or threeplexes or fourplexes. Here, we built condos, we built townhouses, so there wasn't a need for multi-units. Now we're seeing that trend change, but we're seeing it change more with apartment complexes, large apartment complexes. So still, there are not that many multi-units, residential multi-units in Las Vegas or Henderson. I even believe cities like Henderson have certain restrictions where they don't allow them in most areas, and same with Las Vegas. Another disadvantage is you're going to find that they're mostly in Las Vegas because they're not building new ones, and because there's such a low supply, they're older buildings. So they need a lot of rehab. Most of the times you won't find anything built before 1980. They're even as old as the 1950s. So when you buy a building that's built in the 1950s, 60s, you'll find that the plumbing a lot of times needs to be changed. They might have used cast iron plumbing, and that starts to disintegrate, and then the whole building needs to be replumbed, and that's a very expensive expense. And it's something, actually, it's a tip. If you are looking to buy something like that over here, I strongly advise my investors to get a plumber, not just a home inspector, but a plumber to maybe run a camera down the lines. Something like that can be, if you have to replumb a whole multi-unit, a fourplex, you can be talking between $80,000 and $120,000. So it's not a small expense. Another advantage or disadvantage, it depends on how you see it, is a lot of multi-units don't have HOAs, right? So I know this sounds great to investors. Hey, that saves me on the expense. I don't have to pay an HOA. But the building that I'm in right now has an HOA. I prefer multi-units with HOA because it holds the tenants and the owners, really holds the owners to make sure their tenants are accountable to a certain kind of living standard. It keeps the community looking clean and good, and keeps trash from outside of the complex and yard. Also, HOAs cover a lot of things. That's what some investors don't know on multi-units. So this HOA that I'm in covers the exterior painting. It covers the roof. It covers shared plumbing. It covers the landscaping. It covers the common walking areas, the concrete, if something happens. So it covers a lot of things. So HOAs, they cost money, but there are benefits to them. So personally, I think they're good to have. So those are really some of the disadvantages of owning multi-units. Now I'm going to take you around this multi-unit and show you what kind of remodels or what kind of remodeling I suggest when you buy a multi-unit. Now this specific unit that I'm going to show you is a little probably over rehab, but I'll go over my mindset on why I did things a certain way that I did. So I'm going to walk you through this multi-unit. It's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and I'm going to go over the upgrades that I did and what you'll generally find when you buy an older property that's a multi-unit. So we're in the kitchen right now, obviously. Now, when I bought this place, this is a total gut and remodel. As you can see, I did all brand new shaker cabinets and new countertops, and I did all stainless steel brushed nickel finishing. Now, a lot of investors will say, hey, Wasim, can't we just paint the cabinets and put in new countertops? You can, and that's something that you can do. I find it nowadays with the cost of cabinets and countertops, they're actually pretty reasonable, right? So the cost to just paint the cabinets might be 30% of what it costs to just put in new cabinets. And I'm not a big fan of adding new countertops onto old cabinets, right? It's still a dated look. It doesn't last as long. Eventually you'll have to change the cabinets, and then you just wasted the countertops, because a countertop isn't something you can just take off and put it on a new cabinet. Most of the time when they try to take it off, it will break. So I use quartz countertops. It's really good for renters. I use all brushed nickel stainless steel finishing. The reason why I do that, I like black finishes more on properties that I flip. I think it's a better look, but this is more durable. It's better for tenants. The calcium buildup is easier to clean off of brushed nickel than, say, some of those gold fixtures or black fixtures. So it's this, I designed this unit to be renter friendly. If you'll notice on all the ceilings, I removed all the popcorn ceiling and I added recessed lighting in. I think it's a much more modern, cleaner look. I don't have to worry about switching out light fixtures in the future. So it's an expense, but it's an expense that you do once. And honestly, how I designed this unit, this is probably good for 20 or 30 years to be a rental until it's dated again and maybe needs a remodel, but you can probably even still extend it at that time. Here's another tip that I like, the blinds. So I use these type of blinds with the slats instead of the vertical blinds, because if this breaks, I can just replace one of them. I don't have to replace the whole blind. So when you're going through renters, it saves on the cost. You just change out 1 or 2 or 3 of these and the mechanism stays intact. So that's a good tip that I like to use. You can see the floor, I did all tile. I know this is an expensive expense, but it's a one-time expense. And if you're buying a multi-unit to own it for many years, I think it's an expense that's worth doing. I like it way better than vinyl flooring. I like it way better than carpet. I did it in the whole unit. I like it better than laminate. Those are all 3 of those products that I just mentioned, carpet, vinyl, laminate. In my opinion, they're really not renter friendly. This is renter friendly. You do it one time. If you have somebody good that installs it, it should last 20, 30 years with no problems. I buy a little bit extra just in case there's a cracked tile. I can just replace the cracked tile instead of replacing the whole flooring. With something like carpet, you might go through it with one tenant for 1 year and have to replace it the next year. That can happen. And oftentimes the deposits that you're collecting are not sufficient. Now, I still haven't put in appliances in this unit. I'm gonna put all stainless steel appliances. A lot of my investors will ask me about, hey, Wasim, what about used appliances? I personally, though I have vendors that sell used appliances, in my rentals I buy all new appliances all the time. The reason I do this, on a used appliance, you might only get a 90-day warranty. You'll find that a lot of times the appliances they're giving you might be, and I'm not exaggerating, 10 years old. So come day 91, they break down and then you have to switch it again. The cost of a used appliance is about, I would say, 1/3 of a new appliance, but you probably have to replace it 5 times more than a new appliance. So I think just invest the first time in the new appliance and it would last years and years and years. Let's walk through here finally. So I've got 2 bedrooms and 1 bath on this unit. I'm just gonna show you the bathroom. So again, I did a new toilet and you can see the shower it's a fiberglass and kind of like a plastic trim. Now, I used to use tile. I used to do a tub and all tile in the showers, but I stopped doing that. First of all, it costs probably twice as much, if not more than that. And then you've got to really worry about the grout lines and leaks and water going through the wall. With a plastic finish like this, or I don't know if it's plastic or fiberglass, you know, it's leak resistant. It's all just really 3 pieces here. So I don't have to worry about changing this out or having to send my tile guy to fix some of the tile or the grout. So this is something that I really like to do. Also, all the baseboards, whenever I do tile, I redo the baseboards. Sometimes people will say, hey, Wasim, can't we just leave the baseboards and put in tile? Well, that's not a good idea, because if you look, the baseboard actually sits on top of the tile, right? When you install tile and you want to install it properly, you really want to set the tile up against the wall and then put the baseboard on top of it. Sometimes you'll see, I've been in other houses where we had to redo the tile and it wasn't done that way. They pushed the tile up against the baseboard, then you have to almost pry out that baseboard to get it out, and then it leaves a gap. So the next baseboard that you have to put on there needs to be bigger so that it fills that gap. So these are some upgrades. These are just a few. I also like to, it's hard to see, but I'll try to show you right here. This is a big tip. I'm glad I didn't forget about it. All of my my hoses on my like angle stops, any mounts, I always change them, okay, to save for a leak. These are steel. I like to use these. Do it once. The worst and most expensive damage in a property can be from water damage, right? That's where your biggest expense. So when I do something like that, even though a lot of times it's going to take a plumber or really maybe a more expensive handyman to do it, the cost that it's saving me, if there are damages, it's really a huge cost. So it really pays off. So these are just the upgrades that I like to do on my properties. I'm not saying that every investor has to go all out like this. Again, I'm more of a mindset, let's do it once, let's do it right, and then let's not have to do it again for a long, long time. But there are other, I don't want to call them shortcuts, but yes, they are shortcuts that you can take if you don't want to spend that much money, or you've got a smaller budget and still want to get some kind of return. And I can share those with you if you call me, and I'll go over them personally. Okay, one last thing I'm going to show you, and this is really uncommon. Something this is the first unit that I've done it in, but we're going to see how it works, and we're going to see, hopefully it pays off. So I put in a tankless water heater on this unit. Usually the water heater would stand here. It's a big thing, maybe 30, 40 gallons, takes up most of this room. This is the washer and dryer room. But on this unit, we said, hey, let's try one of these tankless heaters. I got a good deal on it. It wasn't much more expensive than a water heater with a tank. So we're testing that out. With this, you don't run out of hot water. Your tenant's not calling and saying, hey, the water heater's not producing enough hot water. And mainly leaks again. So a big expense that you see on a lot of properties, especially multi-units, where you'll find a lot of times that the water heaters either maybe in a kitchen cabinet on the older units, or in a room like this, or in a storage closet. If they leak, it causes a lot of damage in the property. You end up having to possibly get a mold remediation company in there. The tenants get freaked out because the word mold comes up, and remediation company, and you end up cutting most of the drywall out, having to redo floor. So that's again why I do the tile floor, because if water gets on here as well, you know, we send somebody in to just kind of back it up, suck it up, and maybe I'll only have to replace a little bit of drywall, not a lot of it, because it's not going to just soak up. And again, with the tankless water heater, that's why we're trying that. We want to prevent leaks as much as possible. You can see here again, I did steel hoses. Here on the washer, I did steel hoses. So, you know, these are just tricks of the trade from experience. Being a property manager for so long, I see where most of the expenses go on rental properties when there are damages. So what I'm doing is all preventative upgrades. So hope you like the unit. If you have any questions on maybe investing in multi-units or a property that you own, or upgrading one of your properties, feel free to reach out to me. Make sure to hit the subscribe button if you like this video, and I'll keep bringing out content like this.